Hey everyone, I'm Travis Wright, and you're listening to I'm a Fan of, your show for music, comedy, and more. As always, if you are a musician, a comedian, or just someone that does something interesting, you can reach out to me on Instagram at TravisCanListen. You can find me on Facebook at I'm a Fan of, or you can reach out to me through the website at I'mAFanOfPod.com. This episode, we are sitting down with lead singer, founder of the band The Dirty Shirts, Nick Santamaria. Fantastic guy. Really glad I got to sit down and talk to him. They just released their debut album, In the Get Up From the Get-Go. There is a separate little clip before this. Sorry, not a clip. There's a separate mini episode where we play the music. We play a couple songs, a couple of my favorites, talk about the band a little bit. Also, keep an eye out for a full album review where we're going to talk about, the full album, song to song, what I like about it, what maybe I don't like about it a whole lot, which is not much at all. So get your head out of your ass. But keep an eye out for those. We're going to be shaking up the format of the show a little bit. But for now, this is going to be an interview with Nick Santamaria from The Dirty Shirts. Enjoy. The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nick Santamaria.
Yes, sir.
Of The Dirty Shirts.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. I've got a little confession to make. It's like I was looking at your Instagram, and you've always got just cool fashion shit going on. And I was like, fuck, man, I just wear like T-shirts and shit. I was like, what if I surprised him and just like glammed it up? And I was like, I don't know. He might think that's kind of weird.
No, I would have loved it, man. I don't begrudge anyone the glam.
I thought about it. I was like, I could get a wig. I could get a badass shirt. But I don't think I have the confidence to wear like the super deep V down to the navel like you do,
man, I got to give my wife credit for that. She's a stylist.
Oh,
and,
okay.
Yeah, it just worked out well.
Dude, hell yeah.
And so I've always liked kind of the fashion aspect of music and, always kind of dressed into whatever I was playing. And but I'd always loved, Bowie and Queen and, T-Rex and stuff like that.
Oh,
so
T-Rex. Not enough people mention T-Rex.
Not nearly enough people for as important of a band as they were.
And people know that band, but they don't know they know that band.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? They're like
sure.
T-Rex, and you play them a song, and they're like, oh, yeah, of course, that.
Yeah, you put 20th Century Fox on, and everyone's like, oh, of course I know that.
Yeah. So the wife is you said she's a stylist?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dude, what's that like married to a stylist? Is she always just keeping you like prim and proper and like looking good?
At first,
that sounds like that'd be awesome, right?
It is
somebody
awesome.
who'd be like,
it is
wear
awesome.
this shit,
I guess I
trust
should
me.
preface it with that. I never have to think about what I wear, but when we first got together, I was playing country music. That's actually how we met. I used to play guitar for Elena Kay.
Oh, yeah.
And she's known Elena for years and styled her and toured with her for a while. She tour managed for a bit too. And so it was a lot of fringe, a lot of denim that I was wearing then, and bell bottoms. I love bell bottoms. And so when we started doing the Dirty Shirts, and we knew that, before we even really had the band, I knew that I wanted it to have a strong image. And she was kind of like, okay, bet, I got it, and just ran with it. And so at first it was a little bit of prodding. I was like, there's no way anyone's going to take me seriously wearing that. And then now, like, fast forward to tonight, I was getting ready, and she's like, I think that's a bit much. It's still a Wednesday.
Now you're like way into it. You're like,
exactly.
Babe, what about this?
What do you mean no glitter tonight?
I just picture you like on Amazon. You're like, babe, there's body glitter in bulk. You're like, right now I can get some.
Dude, I hope no one finds my Amazon history. It's bad. Look at my Google stuff. I can own up to all that. But if you look at the stuff that I try and buy for myself, sometimes it's terrifying.
The style, though, I mean, it brings me to a point that I wanted to talk to you about, which was I was reading kind of the bio about the music, and because I remember you talking to me, you sent me a message way back, and I was like, I told you, I was like, I love listening to full albums. I don't like listening to singles.
Right,
and stuff.
right.
I was like, let me just digest it. It might be a little while, but trust me.
For sure.
And
here we are.
Absolutely. Well, the album's great, but then I started reading about kind of, you started writing a lot of it during the pandemic when things were real serious, and you kind of summed it up as like, I just want to play music that's fun and entertaining and like, let's have a good time since everything kind of sucks right now.
Right.
Yeah. And once I read that, I already enjoyed it, but once I read it, I felt like I had this other level of understanding of like, oh, now I know it. Just turn it up. Don't think about it too much.
It's a record meant to be listened to loud for sure. And no, I mean, it's just, I wanted everyone to have fun. And, it was kind of I started off when I was in high school. I started playing in Deep Ellum when I was like 14.
Oh, wow.
And
How old are you right now?
I don't want to say.
Okay, you don't
I'm
have
30.
to.
I'm 33.
33. Oh, okay. First of all, I love saying, how old are you right now? Like,
Yeah.
instead of just how old are you? But
Yeah.
anyway, go ahead.
I was 24.
Yeah. So from 14 to 33. That's a
yeah.
lot of Deep Ellum time.
It's a lot of Deep Ellum time. I was
Yeah.
in Austin for 8 years.
Oh, okay.
So that was kind of the country,
Mhm.
you know, I was playing lead for a bunch of country and Americana bands, some folk rock, indie stuff.
Yeah.
So kind of all over the place. But sorry, I totally lost where we were going. Oh, the fun and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Me and my co-writer, Cam Moreland, who I've known since we were about that age, about 14, 15, we had been really close friends. We met doing volunteer work in Mississippi when we were 14. And we were kind of the two long-haired kids that were out there. It's like, oh, I want to talk to him. And so we just hung out and did roofing, which might have been child labor. And and just kind of became really good friends since then. And we stayed tight, but we always lived in different places. And we both ended up at Fort Worth at the same time. It's like, okay, well, we have to start at least making music together.
Yeah.
And we were both
What instrument was he playing?
bass.
Bass. Okay.
Guy can kind of play everything, but he's an incredible bass player.
That seems like a lot of people's story. Like I play guitar, and I was in, I guess, 7th or 8th grade, and somebody was like, I grew up in a small town here in Texas, and somebody was like, there's this guy who plays bass, I think.
Yeah.
And then we met, and it's like, we really didn't know how to play yet. And it was just like, I mean, we both have instruments, though. Like,
For sure.
you want to learn how to play together? Like,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think everyone should start doing that.
Yeah.
It's funny. My brother, in addition to being a writer and a comic, he's a really great drummer. And he actually played drums with a couple of the guys that are in Polyphia now.
Oh, wow.
Back when he was in high school. So middle school or high school. But yeah, I mean, you just have to get into a room and suck together for a while. I'm sure everyone's story is like this, but first 5 or 6 bands, man, were just unlistenable. And the fact that we had the gall to get up at the Liquid Lounge and force people to listen to us for 30 minutes.
Isn't it crazy, though, when you're that age and you're learning and you have no awareness of how shitty it is?
Oh, yeah. No,
right?
you're
In
like
your mind, you're like, we're all in time together. It's amazing, right?
You're a toddler that can drive at that age. I mean, no disrespect to, younger people, and, everyone deserves to have that time where you have that confidence and that, kind of lack of perspective that you get when you're older.
Yeah. We learned, me and the buddy I grew up with, Mikey, he played bass, I played guitar, and it's like we were in that weird area where, like, when you pick up an instrument, it's like you go through all the phases of rock. Right? Like, of course you listen to classic rock, then you find that grunge stuff, then maybe you drift into a little like metal, and then we were into punk rock. So it's like we were trying to learn a little bit of Nirvana, a little bit of Metallica, and a little bit of like NoFX and Rancid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That sounds very familiar.
Right, yeah. And I remember it's like, I think I'm 37. This shows how old things were back then, but like we didn't have cell phones yet, but we would stay up all night learning songs, and then the next day we would literally dial random numbers like on the house phone, and we'd be like, do you guys want to hear us play a song?
Oh, that's awesome.
And we would set
it
was like a landline phone, so we'd like set it down in the room and we'd like play whatever shitty riff we just learned.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was such a weird experience because I don't know if it was just because it was small town Texas or what, but people were just like, well, I mean, let's see what you got. Okay. And then you'd pick up and be like, what do you think? They'd be like, it's, it's good for you guys.
Keep working.
On it.
Keep working, son.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep working. Yeah.
But you think you're so amazing back then.
Yeah, no, I remember thinking practicing my guitar with my window open was an act of public service.
Yeah. They'll all appreciate
people.
how good I'm getting.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. If they heard this last week,
Yeah.
God, they'd have to notice that I'm better now.
Do you remember the names of your first bands?
Yeah.
You don't have to say them if you don't want to.
No. The first one that I actually played out live with was Presumed Innocent.
Okay. Solid name.
Harrison Ford movie. But there were some good ones. The Undead Puppets.
Presumed Innocent would have been good too, because all the merch you could do with like PI and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. We never quite got
well,
there.
I mean, but it was your mindset was there. Just the talent wasn't there yet.
Yeah. Oh, it definitely wasn't.
Yeah. What was the second one you said?
The Undead Puppets. Which could have been, if we would have been a metal band, that could have been some cool merch.
Yeah.
It was Euphoria, but spelled with a U without the E.
Dude, you were ahead of it.
Super
Euphoria's
edgy.
on fire right now.
I know. I'm going to call Zendaya and tell her I need a cut. I'm sure they got
Were
the
you
name
naming
from
all these bands?
Yeah.
These are solid band names,
Thanks,
dude.
man. Thanks.
Naming a band is so hard, and so many band names are shitty.
I honestly started playing guitar because I wanted to be in a band.
Yeah.
And I love everything, but I was massively into Blink-182 at the time. And I got the Mark, Tom, and Travis show.
Yeah.
My cousin came up from Mexico City and brought it, and I wasn't allowed to buy that shit. And that's all we listened to the entire Christmas break that he was up. And just hearing it and the energy and the crowd and everything and the dick jokes, I was like, this is all I ever wanted to do.
Was that the first album of Blink-182 that you found?
No, I got into Dude Ranch first.
Okay.
And I remember hearing Josie on the radio and be like, that's
I always think it's interesting, bands like Blink-182 that have like very different, not styles, but like this version of Blink-182, this version of Blink-182, you know, especially when they switch drummers.
Yeah,
And, you know, it was always the same band, but their styles changed quite a bit, right? And depending on where you came in at, that really decided like which albums people think are great and which ones they think suck.
No, it's like whenever, you know, you ask someone, you know, what's your favorite Bowie album? There's always a couple people that kind of give the judgmental glare when they say, oh, Ziggy Stardust. And it's like, oh, I had Changes first, but, you know, whatever. But no, I mean, and that's kind of, you know, we definitely have a sound right now that we're proud of, and it's very us. But, you know, God willing, we get the chance down the line. We definitely want it to always be an evolution. We're working on the second record right now, and
already.
Oh yeah, man. We want to do at least one a year for.
Dude, that'd be rad. That's awesome.
That's so. We're looking at probably next fall right now, and we're hoping to get in the studio starting next month. So
that's badass, man. I think I love albums that have like a theme, like a whole vibe to themselves. I think you guys nailed it with this one.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank
it's.
you.
I hate comparing. Like you sound like this, you sound like that. But I was picking all the different influences. I felt like, oh, I bet they listen to this. I bet they listen to that. And
were any like stuck out big time?
Nothing big time. It was like here and there. It's like I'd hear a verse or a breakdown or something, and I'd be like, oh, that's, you know, like the vibe I kept picking up on a lot was like early Arctic Monkeys, and I think it might have been the way your melodies are with some of your vocals.
Alex Turner's by far one of my favorites singers.
Oh, really?
And,
okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Dude,
I feel good that I was like,
no, you nailed that one.
But it wasn't glaring. It wasn't like, oh, they're ripping off Arctic Monkeys. You know? It was just like, oh, I'm picking up a flavor here. And then, of course, I mean, it's so easy with kind of like pop, indie rock, whatever you want to call it, dance rock. It's like you start going down the list of bands like The Strokes and things like that, of course, because they were just so massively influential on everything.
They're kind of one of those bands, too, that depending on where you got into them, very different styles, you know.
Yeah. Man, I remember being really like, I was a big hater of that band. I was just like, fuck this shit, you know? And, you know, because it's like you hear the same tracks all the time, right? And then...
Someday, Last Night.
Sure, yeah. And I was in... one of the studios up in Denton. There was a band that I was playing guitar with, and the guy who was recording us, what is that huge band from Denton?
Bowling for Soup?
It's more of indie rock band.
Okay. I know Panhandle's out there, and I think they're associated with that one. Is it Spoon? I think Spoons might be from Dallas.
No. It's like a indie, like almost experimental rock kind of band. Oh my God. I'll think of it sometime. But anyway, one of those guys has a studio up there, and we were recording there, and he put on this song, and I was like, what the fuck is this? It had the coolest guitar riffs, and I don't remember which Strokes album it was, but the song is Gratisfaction, where it's like dun 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 dun.
Oh, that's off of Angles.
Yeah, Angles.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the Strokes? And he's like, yeah. And that's when I finally got it and respected it a little bit more, and I was like, okay, they've got the radio hits. And then when I finally started going through their catalog, I was like, there's just so much more depth here. I felt so stupid for hating on it for so long, you know?
So I had kind of a similar experience when I got into this, when the Strokes were big. All I wanted was like loud and screamy, and I was into a bunch of hardcore, whatever. I feel like all the punk subgenres you have to kind of justify. Like, no, this is what I think hardcore is.
You like hardcore after school backyard.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
Post-hardcore scene.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, just a lot of screamy, angry Warped Tour stuff is what I was super into. And that was just a completely different thing to me. So I didn't hate it, but it wasn't something that I was into. And
I think we had the exact same experience, because I was definitely more into, like at that time it was like Rancid, Pennywise, NoFX, Bad Religion. So to hear somebody actually singing, like trying to be a real singer instead of just a vocalist. I
Yeah.
think I was too cool for it. It's like pussies, you
Yeah.
know. Like,
And I was like, oh, they've got, they're singing about cops on this first record. I don't know.
and they
man.
play their guitars so high.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, dude.
Everyone that I loved, like
Yeah.
guitar slung low,
All the way down,
and
you can
the,
barely
the
reach
Jimmy
it.
Page way, and you kind
100%.
of find out, oh, they're, and even if you look at like Tom DeLonge from Blink-182, that guitar kept coming up and up and up as like the later they got, because his guitar parts got harder.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was
know,
actually trying to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and when Cam and I started writing, we went out to this lake house out on Cedar Creek Lake, and that's kind of where we started working together. And it was like a 2-hour drive out there from Fort Worth, 2.5. And he told me, "You've never really done the deep dive on the Strokes, right?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, that's what we're doing on the drive."
Nice.
And so we started on record 1, and the new Abnormal hadn't come out yet, but I had the same exact realization. Where you're like, oh my God, there's so much here.
Yeah.
And then especially by the time I got to the third record, First Impressions of Earth, the guitar work on that album's just nuts.
Dude, they play, like they know when they're writing a hit, and then they know what's going to be like a
Definitely.
cool ass B-side, right? And then that's when they kind of cut loose, and you're like, some of those guitar parts, you're like, man, you guys are anything but boring. It's like,
Yeah.
you may not like
No.
the song, but that is a cool fucking riff.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those experiences where I realized, I mean, that's part of the reason, like I was telling you, it's like I love listening to albums front to back now, and then I kind of put them down and see if there's like an earworm or something, like if I really like something, and then come back to it.
see what you latch onto.
Yeah, because it's like you just don't realize sometimes.
Definitely.
I think you're so used to, especially now that you have like TikTok, Reels, and everything's just boom, 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 boom. It's like taking a moment to go, no, I'm going to do a full listen. Like I'm really going to listen. I'm not going to go 30 seconds and skip. Like even if I think a song sucks, I'm going to try to get through this,
Yeah, we talked a lot about that going into the first record, because we thought, well, we could we could record 10 singles and just kind of space them out, and we really wanted to do an album.
Yeah.
Because that's what I love listening to, and the older I've gotten, I'm the same way, where I want to sit down and listen to the whole thing and kind of get the vibe of the.
That's like the big music debate right now. It's like when you talk to some musicians, they're like, man, like the algorithms and stuff, you got to have content, you got to push everything. We'll do these singles and then try to stretch it out over this, and it sucks. And then you get people who are like, fuck that, I'm just going to put out an album.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, do that.
We're kind of in that camp. We'll probably release some singles from the album leading up to it.
Do you remember how radio used to do it? Where like you would do one single way before the album ever came out. Then when the album came out, you'd do another single. And then once it had been out for a little while, they'd pull like a deep cut single.
Yeah.
And so you could still get that kind of lasting content, but you could go ahead and throw the album out for people who love the full thing.
Yeah, and you'd get a video with the single that came out
That's
way
right.
beforehand, and
That's
then
right.
sometimes you'd get a video when the album came out, or sometimes they'd still be pushing the same single, or and that's a little bit what we're thinking about doing. Well, because the album's probably going to come out in the fall, and I think we're shooting to have the first single out by March.
I didn't even look. Have you got to make any videos for this album yet?
Yeah, well, we did the video for Gin and Tonic.
Okay.
Man, it's funny because it's a different lineup in the band.
Oh, okay.
And I have a beard, different haircut.
Okay, I'm gonna have to check it out now.
Yeah, it's a cool video. I'm really proud of it. Claire, my wife, styled it. We have Rachel Alley who sang on the track. She's in the video with us. And Cal and Alley, they're up in Nashville, but they're a photographer.
I'm very familiar with them.
Yeah.
They are. I don't know them at all, but every time I see a lot of their work without knowing it's their work, and then I'll see their little tag on the bottom. I think when they blew up on my feed a lot was with they were traveling with Margot Price.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I started realizing I was like, oh, they're from around here, or they were. I don't know where they live now.
Yeah, they're in Nashville now.
Yeah, but they were here in DFW for a while, right?
For a while, and then they came back during the pandemic, which worked out great for us because that's when we started working with them.
Yeah, that's why your shit looks so good, man. They're awesome.
It's almost like cheating.
They have a really like my impression of their work with musicians, at least. I know they do more than just that style of photography, but they're very good at finding your candid qualities, where it doesn't look like you're posing, even though this was clearly a setup shoot.
Definitely. I'd never done a photo shoot before when it was just me. And I was, and we knew him. I actually met Cal. I guess they had just started working together and dating for, however long. But I was opening for Brad Paisley at the Rustic. Oddly enough, it was for Clayton Kershaw's charity event that he had there.
Okay.
And Cal was running our monitors and doing, because he does sound as well, or did. He doesn't do it anymore as much. But and that's when I met him, and he was just super nice and complimentary. And I kind of just thought, wow, there's this super nice guy that really thinks I've got something.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've ended up having this really great friendship and working relationship the last few years. So
yeah,
we'll definitely be working with them again on this
Dude,
next
that's
record.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's how, it seems like you have a fun circle of people that you work with and play with. Because like even before here, you're like, hey, I'm going to drop in and play with Jake Quillen real quick. And he was on the podcast, and that dude is just so cool, so much fun.
Dude, he's the coolest. He's the cool.
It seems like you've got a nice little bubble of players and kind of support group.
And I'm gonna throw love on Dallas for that one, man, because I think there's just such a deep talent pool here, and it's super diverse. And so you'll get blues one night, you'll get something like us the next night. You'll have a heavier band, something like a band like Fit, and Hunter was in Sea Lion before that, and there's just Sea Lion was great, dude. Sea Lion was so good.
Yeah. That's part of the reason I love doing this podcast, man. I've always felt like, I mean, I'm partial to Dallas. I'm partial to Deep Ellum bands and the stuff that goes here just because this was the area I've always gone to, right?
Right.
But DFW as a whole even, it's like I've always been blown away by the talent here that never gets seen.
No, absolutely.
Like and the most recent example of somebody where I was like, okay, they made it was Charlie Crockett.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I hope this guy isn't just playing these bars forever.
Right.
You could feel something special there.
Definitely.
But there's definitely other bands in the area like that where you're like,
absolutely.
Yeah. What's your impression of what makes it hard to break out in like the Dallas area? Like, if we had these things, it might help.
That's a really interesting question. I don't know that I've got a definite answer for it. I know I think that Dallas music fans really like seeing a band grow, and so we've had people that stuck with us, that saw us the first handful of times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really proud of our live show now, and I was proud of it then, but it was still we were a new band. There was a lot of things to work out, and so
it was a new band coming. You guys wrote the songs during the pandemic.
Yeah.
So it's not like you were playing a couple shows while you're writing.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't. It was Cam and I started writing together a little bit before the pandemic, but we were both playing in other bands Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Sometimes Wednesday, and then basically we would both sleep all day Sunday, and then get together on Monday, and then work, until about 6 a.m. every night, sleep till noon, do that every day, and then we'd go back out, and play with whoever. So
nice.
We really didn't have the chance to play with anyone else because we were so busy. And once we started writing, Gin and Tonic was the first song that we came together. It wasn't the first one we wrote together, but it's the one we were like, okay, this is the direction, this is the sound, this is cool.
Sorry, I interrupted you though. We were talking about what could benefit Dallas, and you were talking about people like growing with the band.
Yeah, I think I remember watching in a Beatles documentary some people from Liverpool, and it's old footage, and they were saying, "Oh, this is our band, and I feel like maybe every local scene likes that, but specifically in Dallas, I think they like seeing growth, and Dallas is kind of a tough city, and it's if you're gonna sit there and hack it, I think they're like, all right, you keep coming back, we'll come out, we'll see you, but I think lots of energy is definitely one of them, and it doesn't have to be a big boisterous rock and roll show like ours is. A single artist like Frankie Leone, she commands the stage, has a lot of presence about her, and people love her. So I think that it's just it's like a game recognized game kind of thing. If you bring the energy to the crowds here, they will reciprocate it.
Yeah. Speaking of Frankie Leone, is she ever going to release like a big album of originals?
Oh, she's gotta. She's so good.
I hear her do cover stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I see her out doing her thing, and it's just like she's so cool. But then there's also this mystique of like, is she going to give me anything to listen to? I want to hear what Frankie sounds like.
I've seen her do a couple of her own songs, a number of them, and I want to say that she's got a couple things up on Spotify. I
think
feel
she's
like
got like I go back and look maybe like once a year, and because I just kind of keep my eye out on everything, and I think she's got like 2 really old songs, like from like I don't know, I want to say like 2017 or 2018 or something like that, and but every now and then she'll just creep in, like she'll do a duet or something with a band I enjoy, and you're like, God, I keep forgetting just how good she is, you know. I really want her to put out an album.
I'm more than confident she will.
Yeah.
She's also so young, you know.
How young is she?
I don't. She's under 20.
Oh, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. You know, I guess you see somebody on stage and you see, like, she carries herself with a maturity when she's on stage.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
And that's just kind of her vibe in general.
Yeah, and I never
hanging out
really
with her.
thought about her age, but that makes more sense why she probably hasn't recorded anything then, if she's a little younger. And
yeah, I think
okay.
She was under 20 when I met. I think she might be like 21 now.
Yeah.
So, you know, she was at it at a young age, and way beyond, you know, certainly where I was at that age, but I think a lot of people in general. She's super smart and carries herself really well. And
all right, I'll give her some more time then.
Definitely worth it.
You're off the hook for now, Frankie. Just
definitely worth it, Frankie. I got you.
Yeah. Talking about the Dallas music scene too, I think it's very like even the comics on here when they talk about the comedy scene. It's really the same with the musicians around here too. It's like I think we also really take for granted just how many venues we have, how many places you can play, and like I don't know. I know Austin's always been like the music capital of the world, and yeah, I know. I honestly, like I just hate Austin. It's fine,
you know,
like everything there is just fine, but I feel like we do a lot of stuff equally as good, if not better here.
Absolutely. I lived there for 8 years and I loved it, but I was so ready to get the fuck out.
Yeah.
And part of that was, you know, I was in a band that played, you know, probably 150, 160 shows a year, just kind of doing the Texas country thing all over the place. And maybe 1 or 2 of those a year would be in Austin. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I think Austin, I think, for an original band is really, really hard to break out of, because there's so much there. You're so overcrowded. If you're anywhere downtown, all anyone wants to hear is Sharp Dressed Man and Pride and Joy. Yeah. And, you know, it's hard. And so but because I think we're so close, I think the Dallas scene gets slept on. Yeah. Because it's the live music capital of the world, which was a term created by the Austin City of Commerce. Yeah, yeah. Chamber of Commerce. And
well, it's also like they're like, keep Austin weird. And it's like, you're not that weird.
No, dude, you're home to Google and Facebook. Like,
yeah, it's like, you know, sure, it's a little goofy, like, but I don't know.
But I mean, and there's still great parts of Austin. You'll still see great music down there. But I don't know. There's just something different about Dallas. Having spent, you know, a bunch of time in both cities and around both music scenes, you know, there's a camaraderie. I think that's one of the bigger things. There's a community and camaraderie amongst a lot of the musicians. And I certainly don't want to speak for everyone in Austin, but my experience, I was either in the wrong places and just wasn't around that kind of community. But it felt a lot more competitive. And
yeah, the few times I played in Austin, in the bands I was in, it always felt like we're fucking Austin. You know? Yeah.
Which is a great energy to say when you're in Oklahoma City and we're like, we're from fucking Austin. Yeah. They love that. Yeah. But
when you're actually, because we would just be like, yeah, that's cool. We were just gonna get a beer and load in. Like, you know, like
we're local.
I do believe we're on the show together. Yes. Like,
yeah. It's like there's some meme I remember. It was from the Hard Times, I think, and it said, you know, guitar player from opening band walks through crowd like a god amongst men.
Dude, the Hard Times is one of the greatest pieces. I mean, like, whoever finally got that going, it's like, their articles are so dead on. It makes me laugh so hard. Like, I read so many of their articles, and I'm like, yeah, I should just never claim to be a musician because this is all so accurate about how so...
Sorry, I need to not blow that.
Oh, it doesn't matter, It's how so, like, it's quirky, and we're all a little, you know, like, self-indulged all the time.
Dude, we're all so fucked up. Like, it's, you know... Yeah. It like almost to the point where it's a hack joke at this point.
Exactly.
But,
yeah.
You know, it's a weird life, and it's a definitely different kind. My family's background is not anywhere anything creative. My dad's a lawyer. My grandpa was a lawyer. My uncle's a lawyer.
Did they push you to lawyer, or were they like, do whatever you want?
My mom's dad did. My mom's, it's a fine profession. It's a real fine profession. Honorable.
It's a fond profession?
Fine.
Oh, fine. Through the accent on there. Yeah.
Yeah, he's from South Texas.
Yeah.
But no, honestly, I went to college for a few years, and it just, I changed majors every semester trying to find just something that I could stomach doing for, any length of time. But the entire time I was just thinking like, this is just what I'm doing as a backup plan for music. And then my last semester I was going into politics. Actually, I was going to be a campaign consultant and work on campaigns. And I went to 2 events with an internship, and I was really jazzed about going into it because it was like, it's high intensity. It'll never be boring. I grew up in one of those households where the news was always on. So it was just kind of a part of my life, and being around that world for 2 nights, it's like I'm out. And and then
what was going on in the 2 nights that made you just say no?
It was my political stances have changed quite a bit then, but not that I judge it any. But
no, we were talking about beforehand. You're like, black people, got to get rid of them. And I was like, totally, I get what you're saying.
Dude, you're going to get my ass canceled.
He has some wild political views, guys. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. He's got the Hispanic last name, but he is nuts. But no, it was for Republican Governor Mary Fallon's campaign, who ended up winning, which I feel a little bad about having any small contribution to that.
Wait, was she a governor of Texas?
Oklahoma. I went to OU.
Okay.
I went to OU.
I was like, I feel really bad not knowing our governors, if that's okay.
No, man. Just kind of being around the world, and it was just smarmy.
As an intern, what would they have you do?
I was cold calling people to get them to, but it was at like, I would get there at 5. And so I'm calling people at like 8 o'clock at night and just feeling like the biggest dick in the world. And I have done a lot of cold calling to try and get people to come to shows, or do this or do that. I had a billion different jobs to try and keep the lights on while I'm doing this, and I have never had anyone angrier than asking if we can secure your vote for Mary Fallon for governor. And it was a list of registered Republicans that we were calling, so it should have been that crowd. And no, not a one was happy to hear from me.
Cold calling is one of the strangest things. Like, no matter what it is, whether it's politics, sales, anything, right?
No, I'm pretty sure I will attribute a little bit of like toughness to doing that for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it was just the 2 events. I did, a handful of, those nights cold calling, but after that, you can't even hurt my feelings.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We, one of the bands I was in, we went to all the Warped Tour stops. And we were those bands trying to sell stuff out front.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
And this was back when it was like CDs, digital downloads they were there, but they weren't like, there was no Spotify or anything yet.
Right.
I guess.
No QR codes. Too.
No. And so we had like CDs and backpacks. We had CD players with headphones, and we're like, check this out. If you like it, we're trying to sell this. And so our goal was we wanted to sell to 1% of the crowd, because there was about 20,000 people there. So if you could sell 1%, like 200 records would be great.
Yeah.
And we could usually hit somewhere between 150, 250.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
It was incredible for people in a $200 polka dot punk rock van.
Yes.
Driving around the country, and we're making, what is that, like $2,000 a day? I mean, it was incredible.
That's more than you get paid for Warped Tour.
Yeah. Well, like we were talking to some of the bands. We were not on the tour. They just assumed we were on the tour because we were crazy looking, had this van, and we were going to each stop. And all the venues, like the venues would have their own security for parking, and then there was like Warped Tour security that went everywhere.
Right.
And so the parking security would always just wave you in, because they see, if you're in New Mexico and there's a van with a Texas plate and it's black and red polka dots, and they're like, oh, yeah, come on in.
Dude, I got to see a picture of this van.
I'll find it. It's like the pictures are so old. It's like pictures. So I have to like get an old fucking photo album and look it up. But I'll find some and send it to you.
Or like an old like flip phone picture.
Yeah, for real. And
grainy.
Yeah, so they'd wave us in, and so we get to talk to some of the bands, and they were like, what time you guys playing? And we're like, we're not actually playing, man. We're just trying to sell stuff. And they were like, oh, okay. And they're trying to like high roll you, they're like,
Yeah.
how much you guys, making? And I was like, well, we sell like 100, 200 CDs. And they're like, so what percentage does your label get? And it's like, no, man, we're like all DIY. It's like, we get 100%.
Like, dude, we made these in our garage.
Yeah. That's what we told them. We
Yeah.
were like, dude, we all worked like 2 jobs. We saved up. We printed everything ourselves. It's all ours. And they're like, that's like way more than we're making. And we're like, oh, you guys are like famous too. Like,
Yeah.
And then like the Warped Tour security was like, you guys need to play it really cool around here. We're gonna kick you out. All right. And they're like, here's the ground rules. Like, don't go in, don't bother the bands, don't do this, don't do that. And then they would basically, they're like, you can park here, but then when the show starts, get your ass out front, and then you can come back later. And so it ended up being really cool. But the thing we learned was like pure rejection. It's like you could, you're talking about being rejected by hundreds of people a day.
Yeah.
And they're not, and like, this is a Warped Tour crowd, so they're not all just like, oh, no, thank you, best of luck with your music career. They're like, fuck off, fuck you, slapping your CD player out of your hand sometimes, and it's like, you just let it roll off your back, And it was great training for like, just do what the fuck you want to do in life. Yeah, it's
exactly.
you're not going to please everybody, right?
No. I think
Cold call though, that's another
that
level,
and
dude.
that and playing into an empty room. Those will both.
Yeah, but that's just more
toughen
depressing.
you up. I don't know. I'll call it a toss up on that one.
Yeah. Because at least playing in an empty room, it's like, well, you're still jamming with your buddies, right?
Right.
You're still just, all right, whatever. We'll just make it a practice,
Yeah. I guess I'm thinking of those, the first couple tours I did with bands out of Austin, and we were indie bands and very ambitious. So it's like, yeah, let's book a 6-city tour, and we have 20 fans at home.
Yeah. And you're like, we're going to make it.
Yeah. Like, it worked for Guns N' Roses. They just booked a tour, and so what if they only made one show? But, and so we'd show up to, wherever in Nebraska or, Wisconsin. And because the band that I was with, that I first started touring with, they were from Madison, Wisconsin originally, and then moved to Austin because it was the live music capital of the world.
That's where you go.
And so it was just, when you get the bartender's eye rolling, that's when you're like, oh man, dude, we gotta do something.
Yeah, because like if there's no crowd, but the staff is like into it, then you're still like, all right, they see a lot of music, so we're doing okay.
When you kind of have that hope, like, okay, we may not have brought someone, but maybe the manager on duty tonight will tell the owner this band was super cool, we can come back. And that's worked for me in the past. I don't know if they'll call you back twice if it's 2 empty rooms in a row, but
do you remember the is all of the, like, is the Profit Bar closed now?
I think so.
Okay, so you know how it used to be like the door, the Profit Bar,
the tea room before that.
Yeah. So we played at the Profit Bar one time, and like the show was okay. Like there was a crowd, but it was pretty much the other band's crowds, right? And so it was like 6 or 7 months later, we were putting out an album, and we were trying to do like a release show. And we just wanted to be that sweet spot between the opener and the headliner. Right. And like, it's going to be the headliner show. We would just like to release our album here, and we'll do what we can to promote it. And they were not responding to us at all. And then finally the headliner was like, hey, we're going to put these guys on the show. So the owner or booker, whoever, they emailed us back and were like, yeah, so-and-so said they want you on the show, so we're going to put you on the show. Can you guys please try to bring more than 4 people this time?
It's like, dude, we tried to bring more than that last time.
Yeah, we're like, we had 4 people?
4's not what I was aiming
Holy shit,
for.
those were 4 strangers. We didn't even know them.
Do you have their numbers?
Yeah, right. Oh, my God. And it's like, but those moments, man, they make you realize, like, it feels so impossible to gain a fan base, period.
For sure.
Because there's no set way to do it. It's like, how many times have you probably sat down and Googled like how to build an audience, or like how to grow this thing or grow that thing, right? And there's all these experts on like, here's how you want to book a tour, here's how you want to do this and that. And it's like all these methods are already old. By the time they get on the internet for you to learn whatever's going to help you do it, it's too late. Those methods don't work anymore. Now it's a new game, and it's like there's never just a set plan of how do you get people to hear you and then come to shows and then buy records? It's always just a moving target,
Oh yeah,
it seems impossible.
And there's no silver bullet to anything. I mean, even if you get management or a label, or you've got PR or something.
Yeah.
You know, you can drop 20 grand on a PR campaign if you want. Doesn't mean it's gonna translate into people coming to shows all the time. It doesn't mean people are gonna buy your record.
Yeah. Isn't that wild? It's like you can. That says something.
But it's a thing you can't just throw money at.
I was gonna say like that. It always proves like music is an artistic endeavor, and you can't make people like something. They either like it or they don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like you can write incredible music or shitty music, and it's just you're still just throwing it out there. And it's like people are either going to bite on this or they're not.
Yeah.
And you have no idea, because it's like if you would have went to huge record executives back in the day and said like, you know, we got these guys Nirvana. You know, if you heard 99% of the people that hear that demo are like, oh, fuck this.
Yeah.
This is nothing. No way. That's not what's going to happen.
Angry kid from Seattle, lots of flannel. I'm you know.
Yeah, I'm out.
Warrants on the radio right now, so I'm not into it.
Yeah, and it's like just how many times have things like that where it's just, okay, I guess this is popular now.
Yeah.
I guess this is what people are into.
And that honestly, I think, happened with the Strokes too. I mean, that kind of ushered in the garage rock thing, you know, the revival of it at least. And, you know, look how much influence they had. But there weren't a ton of bands that sounded like the Strokes in 2000 or 2001 when they came out.
Yeah. What was your experience like in the country music scene in terms of like that topic of, that seems like the one genre where people go to bars and they will spend money on merch and all that. Like, I feel like in country music in Texas, you can make a shitload of money gigging, even if you never get famous.
Dude. I mean,
right?
that
seems to be like the only place where it's like, there's going to be a crowd. We just have to be there.
I made a living at it for, 4 years. Just, like I said, we'd play 150, 160 shows a year. And, and that was mostly just playing Texas. And so I think I've seen every corner of the state. But
now that was mixes of like you were in bands that did covers and then originals, or
it was mostly originals.
Mostly originals.
Yeah.
So when you're playing original country music on that circuit, right? And these people are coming out to honky tonks, dance halls, all this stuff. How much of that are like? How many of those people are turning into fans, or they're just there and like you're the band that's playing tonight?
I'll call it a pretty solid 50-50.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, there's some people that just want to hear Randy Rogers and the classic kind of Texas country stuff, Pat Green. But it is a music crowd that I think if you're doing their kind of thing, they're likely to, and you don't suck.
Yeah,
that's a good prerequisite. But if you're doing their thing and you kind of tick their boxes, they'll get into you. And it was definitely different going from first doing kind of the indie and punk thing, and then going to country, and then going back to the kind of dance indie thing that we've got. Definitely different crowds and definitely different approach. That I don't know about approach, because I mean our approach was just like, hey, let's get out there, let's just put it out there, let's look good, let's sound good. And
but now that you said it that way, like now that you just said that the last couple sentences, it kind of makes sense that you do have a mix of kind of the punk rock upbringings now with dancey country vibes. Like, it's not country, but you're blending the two sort of, where it's...
Yeah, well, everyone that played on the record was... So it was me and Cam, and he played with William Clark Green for a long time, and he's played with just about everyone in Texas. And then Sawyer McGee and Shane Hudson were the other two guys that we tracked the initial songs with, and we did most of the record with Sawyer. We all played in Texas country bands for years, so unintentionally, I think, and not in a bad way, but that did kind of creep in to the music, and it had to really in some way.
And that country music, man, like if you play that for any amount of time as a guitar player, you can't help but just get really good.
Oh, dude.
You know what I mean? Like the stuff they play, it always blows my mind. Not speaking about the guys who were doing original music, but a lot of the really popular country music, it's like the song will be horrific, but the guitar solo is one of the hardest things you've ever heard.
Dude, watching Brad Paisley play guitar, man,
yeah.
That guy is fucking bonkers.
He's another one. I've got a buddy, Mike Tuck, who played with, who did he play with for a long time? Played with a guy named Zane Williams for a long time.
Yeah, I know Zane.
And then he went to the Air Force and played guitar with the Air Force. But he's a huge Brad Paisley fan. He's like, just listen to the guitar. Just listen to the guitar. And I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty good.
No, I don't love the lyrics to "I'm so much cooler online," but the guitar parts are fucking cool.
Yeah,
man.
it's like he's definitely way better than I am on guitar.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, and a lot of the big thing from a guitar standpoint for me was everything was so clean. All the lead parts are super clean. You got a lot of that chicken picking. I didn't think I got the gig when I auditioned for. I played for a guy named Aaron Einhaus for 3 years, and when I got the call to audition, he said, "Okay, you play slide, right?" And I said, "Sure." I owned a slide, and I think it was given to me as a gift. Like my mom may have thrown it in my stocking or something.
Yeah, you're like, of course. And then as you turn around, you're like, fuck.
So I had 6 days until the audition, and so I stayed up for 4. Just took a shitload of Adderall and drank a ton of coffee, and I listened to Dwayne Allman and then a bunch of country stuff. I listened to a lot of Bonnie Raitt, those two, and then Joe Walsh were kind of my
Joe Walsh,
man. Joe Walsh does not get enough credit.
No, I mean, well, you were talking about Jimmy Page earlier. That was the guy who got me into playing guitar, right?
Yeah.
Is Led Zeppelin, Jimmy Page. And I know there's tons of people that's the same story.
Oh, same here.
And so because of that, I've always valued style over technique, right? It's like, technique's amazing. I'll watch you play stuff and be wowed, right? But Joe Walsh is another one where it's like, it's just, everything he plays just sounds like Joe Walsh.
It's just so fucking cool.
Him. It's like, I could never, in a million years, with all the talent, write that part that he just wrote.
Did you watch the Foo Fighters documentary, the series they did, the Sonic Highways?
Yeah.
The episode where he comes in and plays lead. Dude, it's, he's coming in to be featured on a solo, and there's so much space in it. It's just his style is just, there's a lot of slow bends, and he obviously builds it up to the big kind of shreddy thing that he can do.
Yeah.
But that guy can probably play anything, and he's just really tasteful. Mike Campbell from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, I think, same thing.
I feel like all of Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers is just reserved and tasteful.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's
yeah.
like, once you realize, it's like, oh, these guys hold back every single time they're playing.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
like, Jesus.
But then you listen to the Running Down a Dream solo, and it's like, okay, that's fucking impossible.
Yeah.
And then I remember watching him play with Fleetwood Mac when he did that tour with them.
Joe Walsh?
Sorry,
okay.
Mike Campbell.
Okay.
And that'd be fun, though.
Yeah, right. I was like, well, I got to find this.
I'd love to see Joe Walsh sing The Chain. But
and that high-pitched nasally.
Listen to the wind blow. Yeah, and I'm a huge Fleetwood Mac fan and love Lindsey Buckingham's playing. But then watching Joe Walsh play the solo on The Chain, it's like, oh my God, that might be fucking better. Like, this is amazing. And it was the same kind of thing. It starts off really vibey.
Wait, Joe Walsh or Mike Campbell?
Mike Campbell.
Okay, sorry, I keep putting Joe Walsh in your head.
No, but that's the show that I want to see now.
Yeah, that would be incredible.
So if Stevie hears this.
Fuck. There's a super famous musician, I can't remember who it is, but he has a TV show where like he brings either...
Daryl Hall.
Yeah. What's his
Hall's
show?
House.
Hall's House, yeah. Joe Walsh was on that. And
Killer.
And it's like, it's like, God, he's still got it. Like,
oh, yeah.
You know how some people, as they age, the singing voice is kind of going, like, usually it gets deeper and it's harder to hit the notes. He's still got all of it, man.
Dude, and I watched him, I didn't see the one yesterday, but I watched the Taylor Hawkins tribute in London when it was streaming a few weeks ago. And the James Gang came out and played. And it's like, shit, that's classic. That was before Rocky Mountain way before the Eagles.
Yeah.
And Joe's lived super hard, and that guy is it's taken, I'd imagine taking a toll on him, but when you put a guitar in his hands, you would never know. I mean, he's lockstep in what he was always able to do. And
did you watch that badass Eagles documentary?
Oh yeah.
The thing that blew my mind about Joe Walsh watching that documentary is his overwhelming positivity all the time.
Crazy.
Like he, what's the big hit? Life's Been Good to Me So Far.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, God, he really means it. Like, I used to listen to that song thinking like he's being a little sarcastic and braggy, and it's like, no, he's like, actually that song's written in kind of a humble way. Like, I can't believe I have all this shit.
Yeah.
And when I watched that documentary and you realize like, he really does just want to play guitar and have a great life.
Dude, and he's so unpretentious about things.
Yes,
I mean, because he'll show up to, because he's invited to do stuff, to come in and be a featured player or something, and, everyone wants to hear him do Rocky Mountain Way or Funk 49 or, Life's Been Good. And sometimes he won't even show up with a guitar. And he's like, hey, man, what's that?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's a $200 Ibanez. It looks cool. I'll play it. And just,
Yeah.
and honestly, I'd be like, oh, wait, that's not my Telecaster, so I
Yeah.
don't think I'm playing that. So
Yeah,
he just does love to play.
Dude, he's incredible. And again, it's like, I'm so thankful that we're in this age where you get these amazing documentaries now, right? Where you have this B-roll footage and these amazing candid interviews, because it makes you go like, fuck, this guy, he was already so cool. But now that I know why, sorry for the sirens, we're in Deep Ellum, deal with it.
This is Dallas, son.
Yeah. And no, he's just so phenomenal, man. And it's like, every time I watch a guy like that, do anything, like not even playing, just in an interview, I'm like, fuck, I got to practice. Like, I'm not good. I'm not good. This guy's so good, and it's so effortless for him.
Oh, yeah.
And I know it's not effortless, but that's what you take away is like.
Definitely.
Because that Eagles documentary, too, and, it's like people love to shit on the Eagles. And it's like, they're fucking incredible, right?
Oh, dude, absolutely. There's some Eagle stuff that I really don't like, for sure, but, I mean, there's way more that I do.
Well, and then in that documentary when they show, I can't forget the female, I forget the female singer that they were gigging with. It's just the band.
Linda Ronstadt.
Yeah. And when you see like, oh shit, these guys were doing like gig after gig after gig. And it's like, that's why they're so solid. It's like you forget. And the same with the Beatles. It's like they were just playing nonstop over and over. And that's what people don't want to accept is it's like, you've just got to play so many shitty gigs.
I mean, that kind of goes back to what we were talking about with, how do you break in? How do you make your band break out? You just have to do it. I mean, and there's, I've been in bands where like, all right, all we need to do, this is very one simple thing. We just have to go viral. That's it. It's like, oh, that's it. I think we must be the only band that wants to go viral.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't have to tour. We don't have to,
Somebody
go
comes in
play
with a
shows.
presentation. So we're going to go viral Tuesday. Tuesday, we're going to go viral.
Yeah.
Wednesday, we should be pretty famous.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, man. Like, there's not a substitute for just getting out there and hacking it, and you have to go out and suck for a minute. And man, our first couple shows were bad. No, the first one was pretty good. The second one we played in Austin.
Also, you got to remember too, though, your first couple shows were post-pandemic when people were still not post-pandemic. Like, we didn't know if we were like, is the virus over? Is it? It's like
our first one was March 13th. So I mean, the vaccines had just come out, and of course, Texas opened up things a little earlier than other places, but.
Yeah, but you're also talking about like music typically has more liberal crowds, which are more likely to not be going out to shows at the moment.
Fair point.
And so it's still a harder sell. You know, if you were doing the country circuit still, it'd be like wide open. They'd be like, "Fuck yeah, fuck
I don't
COVID."
know if they ever stopped.
Right? They're just like, "COVID gets in here, we'll fucking shoot it."
Yeah, I ain't scared of no fucking COVID.
Right. Yeah, so it's like that. That's a really interesting. It's kind of cool to come in that way because you have nothing to lose. Because it's like
we really didn't.
We had like no shows are happening, so anything is better than no shows right now.
Well, and then with knowing that people were still not wanting to come out, we really didn't feel. Obviously, we were promoted and everything, and we were really excited about it. But we weren't worried about, how much are we going to draw? What are we going to make off of this tonight? And we were lucky to have that opportunity because we just got up and played, and so the stuff. I mean, even after the first show, I remember we got together and like, okay, well, this went well. This really didn't go well. This went well. The second show went off the rails because I went off the rails before the show,
hey,
which was
rock and roll, right?
There's a tipping point.
Yeah, of course.
There's a tipping point, and I hurtled past it that night.
Nice.
So no more mushrooms before shows. And they weren't good ones either. So
mushrooms at a show, huh?
Yeah.
Man. And it's not like you're doing any like key lead parts or anything, right?
No, man. Our stuff's real easy to play.
What are mushrooms like on stage?
I wish I could tell you. That
was like a blackout kind of thing.
I drank all day and it was just bad. It's something that needed to happen for me just because I needed to kind of get my shit together. And
so mushrooms were the thing that made you get your shit together?
In a very negative kind of way. It was a bad night. And, we know people that were at the show and they had a good time and they were like, you were super fun. And my band wasn't super happy with me. Yeah. But it was just kind of one of those, okay, that's not how I want to do things. That's having, too much fun to where it's not fun. And
were you intentionally taking too much that night?
No.
It just got away from you?
It did. We got into Austin early and, you know, it was late March. It was just starting to warm up. It was really nice. People were out. We were on a patio all day. Well, we got got into a patio, started drinking.
Yeah, you were doomed at the start, man.
Oh,
That's a
dude,
fun time.
Way doomed. And then I ran into someone that I hadn't seen for a long time. He had the mushrooms. And that's kind of when things went downhill. But
yeah, and it's like if you ran into an old friend and they're like, "You're gonna do mushrooms with me, man," you can't be like, "No, I'm sorry." You're not gonna do mushrooms with me. Me, we go so far back.
Well,
right?
dude, after 6 tequilas, I'm for sure not gonna say no.
No.
Like,
no, that's awesome.
So I mean, it, you know, and I did, you know, I'm a huge, you know, Keith Richards fan, Jimmy Page, Joe Walsh back in his fucking day, man. You know, that I always kind of, probably incorrectly to a bunch of extent, thought like, oh, this is just part of it. This is just part of it. And, you know, talking about Joe Walsh again, you know, he talks about when he got sober, it was, you know, he realized like, oh shit, I'm playing better than I've ever played. I'm singing better than I ever sang. And I'm not totally sober by, you know, right now I am, but, you know, we still like to drink and have a good time, but, you know, now we're at a point where it's way more important to me to put on a good show. You know, I want to feel good about it when we come off. I want people to have fun. And if you're stumbling and just, you know, not present, I think that shows. And so I'm glad that, you know, like I said, that train wreck of an Austin show had to happen for me to realize, okay, I want to take this more seriously. And, you know, I want to be good. I don't want to be, because there's tons of bands that, you know, are the rock stars of their local scene, and you know, there's like, oh no, dude, I saw him, like he took down a whole bottle of Jack Daniels last night, and then he went on stage. Like, great. You know, and some people can do it, in fairness, you know, and very few. And I just, you know, it was something that I had to figure out that, you know, this isn't how I want to do this band, because that's honestly how I did the lead guitar thing, and you know, not to brag, but you know, I could normally, under most mental states, pull off a good show because I was just singing backup, and you know, I could just kind of get back, put my cowboy hat down, and just kind of shred. You can just get on autopilot. Yeah, exactly. And you're playing those songs so many times that you don't really have to think about it. Well, and that's kind of probably how it got, you know, it kind of progressed. Was you know, it starts off as, you know, a couple beers before the show, a couple beers during the show, a couple shots afterwards, and then, you know, the shots move earlier and earlier in the night, and then you're doing the same show. And you can't forget about the like how generous the country fans are, that like, here's a shot. They bring them up to the stage for you all night while you're playing. They are. They just really need to stop buying Fireball for people, because you know, aside from the drunkenness, the hole that put in my stomach, I'm sure. Look, it's either Fireball or Jaeger. It's never going to be something amazing. It's always going to be something that's like, you don't really want it, but you don't want to be rude either. I'm going to take it. Mark Twain said, don't ever pass up an act of kindness if it does not do you bodily harm, and never refuse a drink under any circumstances. There you go. Fuck bodily harm, right? Yeah, exactly. Have you ever thought about taking a smaller amount of mushrooms on stage again? Because I think that could be something, you know. I don't know. I'm a big believer in the microdose. I do like that, and so I don't know, maybe something like that. But you know, our show's changing a lot. You know, I went from playing guitar the whole time to where, you know, I'm running around with just the mic about half the show now, and so I think. Do you like the freedom of not having that guitar on you sometimes? You know, I was really nervous about it at first, because it was my safety, dude. I've been playing guitar since I was 12. Between you and everybody, right? Yeah, and it's just, you know, I don't know. I love having it in my hands. What do I do with my hands? And I still feel more like a guitarist than anything. But I love it, man. I'm a huge Mick Jagger fan, Bowie, you know, Julian Casablancas. You know, I love the energy that you can bring to a crowd. And not that you can't when you've got a guitar in your hands, but you are a little restricted. You know, you've got, you know, you need to be, you know, you're playing the whole time. You got your pedals in front of you, and I jump into the crowd now and, you know, get into it. And so it's just fun, man. It's a whole different thing. So no, I mean, that's why I play pretty straight most of the time now. You know, we'll have you know, a drink beforehand, and sometimes we'll do the band prayer before we go on, but. You know, and like I said, it's a different lineup now, and so not that the people I was playing with before weren't serious musicians, but the most of them that I'm playing with now, they haven't done a ton of touring. Patrick Smith's our bass player. He's a goddamn rock star, and
he's a local legend.
He's a rock and roller, and he's. But even Pat, who I've had some mad times with, he's all about let's play the show really fucking good.
Yeah, guys like I don't know him. I've just always been like Patrick Smith adjacent, right? Because you'll look like once you follow him on social media, or even if you don't follow him, right? If you just follow lots of music around DFW, he's just inevitably going to creep into something that you're checking
you're
out.
seeing that hair somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And the projects he works in are good. Like he works with a lot of great stuff.
Well, it's because he's so good, he can choose who he works with, and I'm really glad that he chooses to work with us. So.
He's one of those guys though. It's like I want him to be in something that he loves doing that works out incredibly well for him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
we're
it's
working
like,
on it, man. We're working on it.
Yeah, it's like he deserves it.
No, he does. He does. And, talk about a positive person, too.
Oh, really?
Just super, super great. Hey, everyone in the band right now. So we've got Pat Smith on bass. Austin Lee Kroll's our guitar player. He's played around Dallas and Fort Worth a bunch. Joshua Smith's our drummer. Super great guy. And an incredible drummer. He and my brother were both captains of their drum line in high school, so I was a little familiar kind of with his approach to things in a small way because I was around my brother when he was on drumline too.
Yeah.
And then we've got we've worked with some really, really incredible female singers with the band, and because we started off with Rachel Farrell. Now she got married, and then we worked with Remy Riley for a bit. Did a song in the studio with Remy, and she's great. And now we've got Dee Dee McCaffrey, and she's super killer, singer out of Denton.
Yeah. And so she's doing the live shows with you now?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that because you can never tell how much is it's not a musician's fault that they can't get players with them all the time. But it's like you want to hear those parts that you hear on the album. But,
definitely.
And so you always wonder, it's like, man, I wonder if they can get that person for these parts at the shows or if they just kind of make it work. Like the biggest bummer, I think, or the band that I get bummed about the most now when I watch them live is Houndmouth, because I don't know why the female singer left the band. I don't remember what happened. I don't know, but they don't do any of the female vocals anymore. And
oh, really?
Yeah, and like a keyboard player or somebody does all the harmonies. It's all there, but she just had that real distinct voice that you want to hear, and it's like you
can't replicate someone's tone of voice.
Yeah, and they had some sort of, I don't know if they had a falling out or if she just went and started doing her solo work or whatever. It's Katie, I don't know if it's Taupin or Tupin. I think it's Tupin, Katie Tupin. But yeah, her voice was incredible on the Houndmouth stuff, and now it's not there. And their show's still incredible. Like everything's great, but you're just like, I just wish I could hear
I miss that thing.
I just want that, you know? Like, and so yeah, when I was listening to y'all's album, I was like, I wonder if they're able to get all the pieces at the shows, because that's such a luxury. Like, it's so hard to get that,
No, I mean, and that's, it's great having a 5-piece band, and everyone can play multiple instruments too. So we get, I think we get pretty close to the record the way we play live. Ideally, I'd have like a 9-piece band with a horn section, and
I'm glad you said that, because I didn't know if it was going to be insulting to be like, I really want y'all to get to the level where, like, I want you to bring back full stack amplifiers.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is the band that needs that.
Give me the wall,
right?
Man.
Exactly.
Give me the wall,
and not like the fake ZZ Top ones where they're like plastic and there's just one amp back there.
Yeah.
Like, I want real, actual. They're like, we're not miking anything up for the stadium.
Yeah,
we're playing real.
We don't
amps.
need to.
Yeah.
I've got 1,000 tube watts right here.
Yeah, like I want you to get up to the level of who is the British guy? Is it The Darkness? I believe
dude.
I just want you to go like one tick back from him, and then I think that's y'all's zone of glam rock, right?
Super into it. I'm right there. I love Justin Hawkins.
Yeah. Is that his real name, Justin Hawkins?
Yeah, that's a singer.
His incredible voice, man.
Oh, dude,
incredible.
Nuts, crazy.
Yeah.
He's got a more of a YouTube channel than a podcast, but
okay.
And he just kind of has his own perspective and rants on, he's got a great one on Greta Van Fleet.
Oh, okay.
And not like shitting on him,
yeah.
But he doesn't give a fuck, so he's just going to give his perspective on stuff. And
I feel like I might have a similar opinion just by the way Greta Van Fleet, by the way. Like,
are we going to talk about Greta?
We can.
We can talk about Greta.
People are probably not going to like me, but I will go on record saying they're incredible.
Right.
But I don't like them.
Yeah. You know what my problem was I immediately liked Greta.
Sure.
I did right away.
I loved them because I was like, fuck, Led Zeppelin. I've never heard this Led Zeppelin song.
Yeah. Well, I found out about him on an Instagram ad because it was that single, I think it's Safari song, but he's just got that first like,
Yeah.
like right up front, and it sounds a lot like Robert Plant. And so I got into him, and I dug the first full record was 2 EPs that they put together, put a few extra songs on. And you know, I was super into it. I was like, man, I hope this ushers in like a whole new era of arena rock. These are kids doing it. They were like 19 at the time. And then I saw an interview with the singer, and he was like, no, I never really listened to Led Zeppelin. I was never much of a Robert Plant fan. And he's up there, and he's kind of doing all the like hand movements that Robert Plant used to do.
He's got to be lying, right?
Dude,
He's got to be lying.
No way he's not massively
How
full
do
of
you
shit.
sound exactly like Led Zeppelin? And I'm not hating on the talent at all.
No, he's an incredible singer.
Everything they're doing is incredible.
Yeah,
and,
I mean that band is great, and,
and
I haven't seen them live, but I heard their shows.
And I think they deserve all they have. It's just I'll never go listen to that on my own. Like if it's on, I'm not going to change it.
Yeah,
I'm going to enjoy it. It's going to be great.
I might roll my eyes, but I'm rolling my eyes about the Robert Plant comment, not the music.
Yeah, come on, dude. It's like nobody cares that. First of all, Robert Plant's voice is amazing. The fact that you sound so much like him is incredible. There's only a couple of y'all in the world that can probably do that.
Yeah.
So just own it, man. Just be
For
like,
sure.
oh, I was super
Well, that's
inspired.
my thing is, you know, we proudly wear our influences on our sleeve, and you know, I don't mind saying that, you know, like, oh, I took this from this guy, took this from this guy. It's just like, just own up. I don't think there's anything wrong about being. I mean, fucking Oasis was never shy about what they took from the Beatles, you know?
Well, and
but do we want to live in a world without Oasis? I certainly don't.
Well, and I don't care who you are. No one is writing anything that is 100% original anymore.
No.
There is nothing you can do right now that isn't going to be drawing inspiration from something. It's impossible. There's been too much music made for you to go like...
Dude, there's 7 notes in an octave.
Yeah, you have never, ever heard anything like this.
Yeah.
It's like... yeah, I have. Definitely have. Yeah.
Well, and sometimes if you haven't heard anything like it, there might be a reason that you haven't heard anything like this before. But I think you can take elements from a bunch of different things that people are familiar with and then put them together in a new way. And that's kind of what I think we try and do, because I'm a huge pop music fan too. Yeah. And so there's a lot of, especially production value on the record that is, you know, takes a lot of stuff from modern pop.
Yeah. Pop music in general is one of those genres where, like, I guess starting in the 90s, maybe the 80s, but you know, like pop has slowly become, I don't even know how to say it because I don't want to say it in an insulting way, but it's not that it's uncool, but it's like musicians don't want to make pop music anymore, right? Because I think they're afraid of having that stigma, right? Because if you're Nickelback, you get shit on all the time, even though you're making music that all these people are going and enjoying, right? But then when you think back to like let's not even say like pop rock music, right? Think back to like groups like Boyz II Men.
Dude, Boyz II Men was great.
Incredible, right? No one's going to be like, fuck Boyz II Men. They're gonna be like, everyone has got that one Boyz II Men song that they love, right? And then all the rest of them, they're like, of course it's incredible, you know?
Yeah.
Where's that group right now? Right? Like more people want to be a rapper than they want to be like a cool R&B singer making pop music. Right? And I think the same goes with like rock music. I think people are afraid to stretch out those like pop music legs. And it's like, you can still do all of this and have, you know, your quote credibility or whatever.
You don't have to sound like a cheese dick just because you've got a pop melody in there.
Pop music is great when you do it well.
Pop just means popular. And I think everyone's got...
Yeah, but popular is always like...
I think everyone probably has the same idea of what pop music is. You know, like we all have that sound that we kind of hear in the back of our heads when we think of pop music. But, I mean, it changes. I mean, there were years where pop music, like in the 2010s, I guess is what we'd call them. But dog shit pop music for a long time. There's some great stuff, obviously, but, you know, I think the last like 6-7 years, the stuff on the charts has been, you know, largely really good. Not saying that just because I want our stuff to be on the charts at one point, but no, I mean you've got artists like I did not want to be a Harry Styles fan.
Oh, come on, man! You can't deny it.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I am a massive Harry
and especially
Styles
like,
fan.
come on, man.
Oh, no,
like,
no.
Yeah.
There's a background to that statement. Like I'm almost 8 years older than my little sister.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was already living in Austin when the One Direction thing was like nuts. And I came back, and do you remember that scene in the first Ace Ventura movie where it's got Laces Out Dan all over the room?
Yeah.
And it's just like a fucking crazy person.
Yeah.
It was like that, but One Direction posters, just like almost floor to ceiling, wall to wall.
Yeah.
It's like, this is fucking terrifying.
You're describing my current
Fuck that
bedroom.
band. Fuck everyone in that band. I don't want to hear it. And so, I remember hearing Harry Styles is going solo. It's like, good for the kid. And then I completely refused to listen to anything because it was the guy from One Direction.
Mm-hmm.
And then going back to Fleetwood Mac again, I saw he and his band did a cover of The Chain on a BBC Live session. And I probably put it on thinking it was going to suck, but I wanted to watch it suck, which is a dick move. It's a dick move.
We've all been there.
Oh, yeah. No. We all do it. But I remember probably 30 seconds in being like, oh, fuck, this is really good.
Yeah, you're like, oh,
and
damn,
then
he actually knows what he's doing.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
you listen to his songs like, oh shit, and then he does write on his songs, and he's an incredible artist, and then just what he's done culturally too is crazy. I mean, he's a fucking rock star. I don't care if he makes pop music. That guy's a goddamn rock star.
Well, and you need that style of pop music.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? Like Harry Styles needs to exist
Absolutely.
in order for all this other stuff to exist as well.
For sure.
Because I think one of the reasons I brought up Boyz II Men, it's like that was one of the first albums I had that was like my own, and so that sticks with you, and then that leads you to the other stuff later.
Definitely,
right?
definitely.
So it's like Harry Styles is going to be the entry point for so many people who like genuinely love music on a really deep level.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's so famous, it's so accessible. Somebody's going to talk about it, they're going to find it, and then it's like that's what you start with, and it's incredible, and then you start finding deeper cuts of other things, and you're like,
yeah.
And that's what it's going to start with is that, teenage girl went to that one Harry Styles concert.
Yeah.
And she saw
the girl that goes to see Miley Cyrus and she's covering Blondie.
Right.
know.
Well, that's what I was going to say. They're going to see them wearing like a T-shirt of some vintage band, and they're going to be like, "What is that?" And look at it, and it's like, boom, there you go. All of a sudden,
that's what the Ramones are.
Yeah. All of a sudden, they're listening to Joe Walsh. And it's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
boom.
So I mean, it's all important, and I think that obviously music has trends and cycles and everything, but I think we're in a really good one right now.
I think this genre of music is going to start doing really well. I think post-pandemic, like we're talking about like Texas a lot, right? It's like, you ever have one of those trips since you live down in Austin? It's like, did y'all ever go float the river?
We haven't as a band, but I definitely did a bunch of times.
As an
when I was
individual,
little.
you floated the river
yeah,
is what
yeah,
I mean.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't you just want to sit in a tube, lazily float down a river and get fucked up and not think about anything? And just all you can do is relax, right? And I think like music, goes through these waves of like, we need the music to be like deep and have a message, and like it's going to be really socially impactful or something, right? And I feel like we went through a huge wave of that recently, and now it's getting back to like, music can also just be like a really good time.
Yeah.
Like, can we just have a good time right now? And so I think we're about to get into a whole new level of just, sometimes you just enjoy music.
For sure. I think right now there's a bunch of stuff that's kind of mixing the two. There's a lot of stuff where the stuff is the music is so accessible and the melodies are so fun and catchy that sometimes you kind of miss some of the messages that are in the songs. But I do think just because the last few years have just sucked. It's, I think people do just want to have fun, and we wanted to have fun,
Yeah.
That's why we, kind of say what we do is just, we want to give you an hour or an hour and a half or however long you're listening to the record. Just turn your brain off.
Like, don't you have a message, man? Like, I'm sorry.
We got one song. We got one. I guess the last two songs are kind of my heavier.
Those are the deep cuts, though. They're way back there. Those are for the super fans.
We haven't even played them live.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I could see that. It's
But I'm certainly not in my protest song period right now.
No. I mean, because it's like, God, between pandemic and presidential elections and all, it's like, I'm so sick. Everyone is so sick of just talking about this shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we get it. You have your side. Everybody hates everything. All right, cool. All right. Mm-hmm. I'm going to drink. I'm going to listen to some music real quick. Is that cool with you?
Well, it's like you say, you just want to turn your brain off, grab a beer, and just float down the river, man. Like,
yeah. And honestly, I think you'll end up solving more social problems inadvertently with that type of mindset. Because what happens when there's just good music on and people are having a good time? People hang out.
Come together.
Yeah, and people start realizing, like, this person I thought was kind of shitty, they're pretty cool, man. I think I misunderstood them.
Yeah.
Just like me and all the bands we were talking about, how, like, I didn't get them at first. And it's like, that's what music originally is. It's like a great equalizer of, like, I also like bobbing my head.
Definitely.
This is fun,
Well, and it's a crazy thing as long as there have been people, there's been music. It's always been kind of a communal thing. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I love about it, not to get too pretentious or deep or whatever, but I mean, it's a natural thing, the rhythm, and people want to sing together,
Yeah.
So everyone loves drinking songs,
Yeah. Isn't it crazy how, like, the shanties made a comeback?
Oh, dude, I love a good sea shanty. I love it.
I've thought about, just because I have a deeper voice, I was like, I could get in one of these groups. This could, but if I came home and told my wife, I was like, what do you call that type of group? You don't call it a shanty group. What do you call it?
I don't know. I feel like it's kind of punky in a lot of ways, but
like if you're in an a cappella group, you're in an a cappella group,
right?
I wonder what they call shanty groups.
Bunch of fucking pirates, dude.
Right? Yeah. But if I came home and told my wife, like, I joined up, I'm doing bass, she'd be like, no, you're not. We have shit to do around the house. Mm-hmm. But it would be so fun. No. But
we should write a shanty.
Go for it, man.
Yeah.
Didn't the Red Hot Chili Peppers do it? I think they put like a pirate song or something on their newest album.
I haven't listened to the whole album yet.
I haven't listened to any of their newest album, but I heard something about there's a weird pirate track.
I'll have to check that out.
Okay.
I listened to John Frusciante on Rick Rubin's podcast talking about it, and they played a couple songs off it, and I dug it. And I'm a huge fan of his.
Yeah.
Of John Frusciante. So
both those guys though, him, Rick Rubin.
It was just like that was a great episode to listen to. It was just two smart people that love music talking about music. Like, dope.
Yeah, and they are. Well, I don't know about Frusciante, but Rick Rubin's just so good at not being like, he should be way more into himself. He should be way more of a douchebag, but he's just not. You know what I mean? He can talk about stuff in such a cool, mellow way.
I'd love to think that there's one small room in his house. It's just mirrors, and he can just look at himself from every angle.
Yeah, but he's not even happy. He's just like, you piece of shit. Fuck you. Like, he's got a butler who just all they do is replace the mirrors that he punches every night. And then he just comes out.
Not the flow length, Mr. Rubin.
Yeah, and he just comes out and he's like, all right, guys, so we're just going to make some music today.
Yeah, that's why he's so mellow, is he just like goes through all of his self-loathing in a 4x4 mirrored room.
Wouldn't you love to see that like YouTube series where it's like Rick Rubin's Rage Room? It's like
I'll watch that any day.
And
dude.
He's just like, the fucking chorus, god damn it. He's just losing his shit, breaking mirrors, and he just comes out and he's like, all right, so we'll take it from the top.
Yeah, I think the last take was a good one. We'll go with that one.
Good.
Yeah,
pretty good. Can I get a new white T-shirt? This one has blood all over it.
Rick, there's a lot of blood on that shirt, but you're not bleeding.
Yeah, right. He just
there goes the butler.
He's. I don't even know if I want to say. I was going to say he starts solving the homeless problem in L.A. because he's killing them all in his rage room.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. I know. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm so sorry. Obviously, he's not going to do that, but it just seemed like an episode of Mr. Robot or something.
But he's another guy that's just like so like positive and he comes across so humble that like there's got to be something in there, right? There's got to be the dark spot somewhere.
Yeah, he's just into something super weird, that we like. Yeah. There's got to be something.
He fucks weird or something.
Yeah. He just. I'm so sorry, Rick, but now I just had an image of him with like, he just gets like when he's having sex, he's just got like 2 sticks of butter that he just rubs on his body or something. Like,
I think that was a South Park episode.
Was it really? Well, that's probably why it's in there. I love South Park. It's probably buried deep in there. Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know how we got off on buttered up Rick Rubin murdering homeless people. That's my bad.
It sounds like Rick Rubin's getting off on Rick Rubin buttering up.
Hey, there you go. There you go. What do you think the contrasts are going to be with your newer album versus the one you're working on, not the one that is released, versus kind of what you've put out there already?
I think that we'll probably have kind of a continuation of the sound, but I and this is super vague, but I just want it to grow. You know, I'm really liking the stuff that we're writing so far. We're early into the process, so it's kind of hard to say, but it's for sure going to be different. But it's a lot more. Most of the record was the first record was just me and Cam writing, and we had Skylar Payne, who's a great Fort Worth singer-songwriter, help write on one, and David Stukenberg, who I used to work with in one of the bands in Austin, he helped with a couple. But other than that, it was me and Cam, not just writing, but arranging pretty much everything. And I played almost all the guitars on the record. And this time it's going to be much more of a band record, and because we've got the solid lineup, we've been playing together for a while, we've been on the road together. I can't imagine making this next record without this particular group. And, you know, I'm sure we're still going to have friends come in and play, you know, guitar on one track or bass on another track or something like that. But it's going to sound a little more like a band, I think. And
yeah, that's a good point. Like, you kind of grew together as a band after this record was released.
Yeah. No.
So the sound's automatically going to change a little bit, you know.
I think
which
so.
is great. It's always great. You don't want to make the same record twice.
But I listened to a song that Austin wrote that he's working on right now. He showed me when we were in the van coming back from Nashville the other day, and I put it on he gave me the headphones and I was listening to it. I was like, oh, this sounds like a fucking Dirty Shirt song. Like, that's rad. I have nothing to do with this song yet, and it sounds like it. So I think they dig the direction that we're already going in, and they're going to be one of the reasons that, you know, it kind of changes and evolves. It's going to be a lot more influences coming into it, and I produced the first record too, and we're going to work with an outside producer too that I'll co-produce with. So we'll kind of have, outside of having the band influence, we're going to have someone who, and I'm not going to say yet because we don't have things kind of firmed up, but I think we'll have kind of another creative collaborative partner in there that will bring a different perspective to things. And I don't know, I'm really excited about it. And we're not playing much for the rest of the year because and we'll play a handful of shows. But the big focus right now is kind of figuring out, you know, we want to do at least 11 or 12 songs on the record, so we're trying to come in with at least 20, 25 to kind of cull down from.
How do you decide on a producer for your next album? Do you give people some demos and see, you know, like have a conversation with them and see if they vibe with it, or you just know people, like their track record? Because, you know, music's so weird, right? It's like you can get amazing people and you just don't click. Right.
And that's the first thing for me is, you know, if we can, before I bring in a demo or I normally have some sort of familiarity with what they've worked on already, because, you know, I want to, you know, not necessarily that I want to sound like this record that, you know, this or that record that they did before, but if I hear something that I think maybe they could have, you know, pushed things in one direction or another that made it special, you know, that's kind of what piques my interest. And then just if we get along, I mean, I'm super involved in the production, and so I don't want to be fighting in the control room. You know, I want to make sure that, you know, we're on the same page and we're going to click. And arguing over ideas and direction is super cool, but if, you know, it's eye rolling and like, dude, just get the fuck off my board and let me do my job, you know, I don't want that kind of energy in there. And then, you know, those two things are the biggest things for me, because I think when you click well with someone, you're going to work well with them. And, you know, like Eric Valentine is one of my favorite producers, and he did the first two Third Eye Blind records. He did Slash's first solo record. He did 2 Taking Back Sunday records Taking Back Sunday is one of my favorite bands, period. And then he did a Nickel Creek album. So it's this like super acoustic folk record. And it's amazing. It's so good. And it was completely out of his normal wheelhouse, but he worked with them really well. And whatever, you know, sauce that he brought to Third Eye Blind or Taking Back Sunday, he just put that energy towards Nickel Creek's direction. So that's kind of what I want in a producer, is someone who's going to, you know, take it a step further in the direction that we're already going in. You know, even if it's in a broad sense, you know, I wouldn't expect whoever we end up working with to make it sound like a record that I produced by myself. Like that's a dickhead kind of expectation to go into. But I think just having that chemistry is really the biggest part of it.
Yeah. It's such an underrated role, right? Like a good producer.
Yeah.
Because there's you only get credit from like music nerds or musicians, right?
Right.
And people, like, it's such a non-tangible thing that a good producer brings to a project.
For sure. Especially someone like Rick Rubin, who I've heard him say in interviews, he goes, dude, I can't run Pro Tools. Like, I'm not going to sit there and like dial in your tone. I'm going to kind of produce, like, it's like a director almost, really. I'm going to kind of direct the band. I'm going to keep y'all cohesive. I'm going to bring in new ideas. But they may not play a single note on the album, but depending on, and different producers have different involvements. Some are super hands off, and they might just be kind of cat wranglers trying to make sure that you're not getting too drunk before you go into the session or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you have other people that are super, super hands on. That's the other side of the spectrum where they don't want the band to come in. Some producers basically want you to come in with an acoustic demo, and then they kind of decide the instrumentation and the direction of it. And I guess what we kind of want is a bit of a hybrid of that. Someone that's gonna, because we always do full production demos in my home studio, and I produce those. So, and that I love the way the first record came out, but having sat with it for about 6 months now, not even that. It's like maybe 4 months, but and we're already talking about the next one.
I know.
I listened to it and I'm like, okay, this sounds really good. I'm really proud of it. It sounds like a much, much better version of my home demos. And that's what I wanted. I really wanted the first record to have my stamp on it. We didn't have any momentum or anything. There wasn't people exactly knocking down the door wanting to work with us. And so, and I wanted the kind of challenge to, because I'd never produced a record before. So I just had this, I don't know if arrogance the right word, but just, I guess, confidence that like, hey, I'm going to be able to, make this happen in the studio. And I think that this time, having that outside perspective, there's going to be something special that comes out of it. Especially if we do have that kind of working relationship between the band and the producer.
That's going to be fun. It'll be a good, experience for you. Like, you're going to have to let go of so much, right? Because you're going to have lots, and I mean that in a good way. Like,
no, for sure.
You're going to go in there with a plan, and then now you've got these players who've got time invested with you, and like you guys are kind of clicking here, and it'll be good. It'll be fun to see what comes out of that, because you're going to go in there and it's going to come out very different.
I think so.
Which is what you're looking for.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you wouldn't work
absolutely.
with other people.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
If we wanted to make the same record again, I'd love to work with Trey Nagella, and we recorded at his studio in Addison, Luminous Sound, and I love Trey. We had a great time, and he did definitely help in a few sections, kind of co-produce. But he was largely the engineer for a lot of it, and a really incredible one. I mean, I can't speak highly enough about how good I think the album sounds.
Yeah, it sounds great.
But Trey's one of those very hands-off producers, and kind of kept us focused, but definitely let me do my thing and kind of be the director, figuring out how things were going to go. And I think that I noticed, just kind of in retrospect after putting out the album, that okay, for this next one I do think I'd like to have a little more collaboration. But the difference too is Cam helped produce a bit, especially in the demoing stage, because like I said, it was just me and him. But now, we're writing as a band. We're doing, rehearsal sessions where we're just kind of picking apart the songs and figuring out how we want them to sound. So it's going to have a lot more people's hands on it. And I'm a big believer that collaboration really brings out the best product in the end. Whatever you're doing.
It took me a long time and I'm still not very good at it, but to let go and not even necessarily accept other people's ideas, but trust that, like, this person has a good idea, and you're going to be better off working with it, right?
Definitely.
Because I'm very much like, I know what I want to do this. Let's do this.
Yeah.
And that'll only take you so far, right? Like
For
you
sure.
have to let go. And
so even working with Cam, because he was the first person I ever co-wrote with. I was playing lead guitar for a long time. I wasn't writing a ton on my own. And when I was writing, it was just kind of me in my room by myself and making shitty little demos. And when I started writing and demoing things out with Cam, we had a bunch of moments where he'd be like, okay, this is going to sound super weird and super fucked up. Please just go with it. Like, all right. And that's honestly how we got shit like Gin and Tonic, which I feel like kind of established the sound, not just for the record, but for the band. That's how Calling All Cars happened. A lot of stuff was, we weren't staying completely sober when we were staying up until 6 a.m. writing and recording. So sometimes there would be, a flub where, you'd go down to the wrong chord and be like, oh, wait, that's wrong, but it sounds cool.
Kind of works, though.
Yeah, let's just see where it goes, and maybe this is just a new section. And so, I think you have to leave room for, other ideas. And like I said, I'm happy with the way the first record is, and I'm really proud of it. But I'm really excited about what other people are going to bring to it.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
I hope so.
It's my favorite part about hearing about comics or bands or just individual artists, whatever, early on. Like, it's like, I've heard the first record, and I'm usually so late to a lot of music, right? Like a band will have 3 or 4 albums out before I realize they had 3 or 4 albums. So the rare moments where it's like, I'm with them for the journey now. I get to see how they evolve. Like Charlie Crockett's a great example. It's like that first, I don't know if he called it an album or a demo, not In the Night, but before that he had a album he was selling around here at shows and stuff. And it's like, I knew his guitar player, Alexis Sanchez, a little bit, and not very well, but he was like, I'm doing a little bit of lead work with this guy, Charlie. He's really cool. Check him out. And we went down to Freeman down here, right? And he's playing on that little side stage when I don't want to say nothing because he was still awesome back then, but he didn't have the bass that he has, right?
Right.
And it's like we got that CD just by throwing some money in a tip jar, and we still have that, and it's when he had more of that kind of Louisiana mix into it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like that Trinity River, such a dirty little river, whatever that is. And then my wife and I, like, we'll still sing that song when we drive by the Trinity River, like it's still stuck in our head. And then now he's gone through all these different morphs into, like, now he's kind of like a full-blown honky-tonk country guy now, right?
He can kind of do it all, man. Like in that
incredible,
kind of spectrum. I mean, he's in another guy whose band around him is just great. Alexis is great. Mayo's great. But I mean, I think that's what keeps it fun, and that's what Like I said, I don't want to put out another album that sounds like the first one.
Yeah. And, it's fun to watch stuff evolve. I mean, even we were talking about Arctic Monkeys earlier.
Oh,
and
dude,
it's like their later sound is so different.
First record compared to AM.
Yeah.
And then now the Tranquility Hotel, I can't remember the full name of the album, but it's
incredible. And it's
crazy.
It's 2 different bands. But
But if you listen to album, like if you listen to Suck It and See, it's like one of the best album titles ever. Such a great album title. But when you listen to that, and then you listen to AM right afterwards, there were seeds that popped up in AM. It's just AM's just such, and Suck It and See is a great record, but AM's, that's one that we've talked about a lot, because not that we want it to sound like that record, but that record has such an identity that's its own, and that's something I think that might be different. Is we want we want every song to have its own identity, but we want the album to have a very specific sound, whatever that ends up being. But
what they've been really good at, I don't know if they've tried to do it or not, but they've been very good at, like, it's almost a little contrarian, like when they put out AM, right? Or what's the huge album? Whatever You Say I Am, I'm Not. Or
the first one.
The first one, yeah. And it's like both of those came out at a time where nothing, even though it's not like crazy original, like it's rock music, but it had like its own identity, like you said. It sounded very much like them, but nothing else sounded like that at the time, right? And now it's like if you come into their music later, it's like you're kind of missing out on it because all this other stuff has now been influenced by that. So you don't even realize like,
Definitely.
oh, no, this was like on its own when it came out. This was so fucking cool.
You don't get Do I Want to Know without You Look Good on the Dance Floor and Teddy Picker.
Exactly, yeah. And so I think that's the fun about them changing their styles is it's like right when they knew other people were starting to mimic, they're like, no, we're doing this now. Whether that was conscious or not.
Bowie.
Yeah.
Like, every time he started doing something and people caught on, he had a new character.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Yeah. I just had this guy on here, Brandon Pattier. He's from San Antonio. And we were talking about the same thing with... was that you or me?
No, my leg turned serious.
Oh, no, you're all good. I was like, shit, I don't know what's happening over here. Anyway, he's a big Bob Dylan fan. And so we were talking about that. It's like, it was almost like he was making people try to hate him. You know, he's like, you're liking me too much. I don't like this.
Well, it's just so funny in retrospect too. You know, oh my God, Dylan went electric and still came out with fucking amazing music. And you know, it's just, we've talked a lot about this with bands like The Strokes or I think Kings of Leon get this a lot.
Oh yeah,
where,
that's a great example.
People get really pissy sometimes. You know, they don't sound like the first record. Well, you know, they're not 19 and broke anymore. I don't know that I want a 40-year-old who's had success for the last 20 years, you know, talking about, you know, the things that he talked about when he was 19, you know?
Well, and like, geez, just the transition from, I'm always so bad with names. Is it Aha Shake, Heartbreak, or something like that?
That's my favorite record.
It's great, right? It's amazing. And it's like, they still have that one track where it's like, I always hear the guitars in my head, so it's just like, dun, 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 dun.
Oh,
Boom, 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 boom. Anyway,
that's gonna drive me.
I know, right?
I'm gonna end up texting you like at 3 a.m.
And then what was the one that really switched their sounds? I'm gonna have to fucking look it up. It's gonna drive me nuts.
The one with Sex on Fire, or the one before that? No, that was Because of the Times.
Because of the Times.
Yeah,
I remember getting that, and like this was CD Times, right? And somebody like threw me a burned copy, and they're like, no, check it out. And I was like, no, I like Kings of Leon. They're good. They're like, no, check it out, man. And I remember listening to it because the intro of that is so different than those previous records. You're just like, whoa, where are we going with this? It's all written and produced so differently. And it like, you're fighting off the urge to be like, this sucks. And
dude, I didn't like that record for a long time.
You don't get it, you know? And then it's like, again, it's like you're not listening to it for like 2 or 3 weeks. And the melodies are in your head.
Then you get Black Thumbnail stuck in your head.
Yeah, and then you're just like, okay, maybe it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, that one was out of all their records, I think, the one that took me the longest to get into.
Oh, it's so incredible.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, that to me is a record worth getting like music snobby about. It's like,
for sure.
It's like, you don't appreciate how good it is.
Exactly. So their album Walls is kind of one of those for me.
Okay.
And that was one that I truly did not understand why, and I think it did well, you know, but, you know, it didn't get the, you know, I got that album. It's like, fuck, you know, they had Mechanical Bull and the one with Radioactive before that, Come Around Sundown. And I liked those records, but they didn't just like completely grab me and pull me, and had a couple songs that I really dug, but Walls I can listen to top to bottom, and it's, you know, you cannot have a more different record from the first 2 albums than that one.
Did they just fall off completely because he was an alcoholic? Is that what happened? Like, did they just stop playing?
Dude, I think they were all super fucked up.
Yeah, but the lead singer in particular, like, wasn't he like, I think he was having trouble like even finishing shows at some point.
Yeah,
so
well, we had that big blow up show here where he came out, and you know, it was, you know, and it was like 1,000 degrees in July, and
I believe birds were shitting on him too.
I think everyone shat on him that night. Like,
no, but I thought because it would have been at the Fair Park venue, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I think
still
there were
call
like
it Smirnoff.
Yeah, I think there was like a bunch of pigeons or something above the stage, and he was literally being shit on by birds, if I remember correctly.
Man. That would put me in a bad mood too, though.
Yeah, and if you already have some demons with alcohol and everything, it's like, this is probably not going to turn out well.
For sure. No, I think that was kind of a turning point for them. That was their Bad Mushroom night. That album cycle.
Yeah.
Because I think they've been, they put another record out last year, or the year before that.
I need to go check it out.
And it's cool, man. It's cool. It's different.
Yeah.
It's another album they did that I wanted it to sound like Walls, but
Yeah.
it has its own super cool.
They've made so much music I love, and like I've gone through so many processes now of like like what we've been talking about, where it's like I don't like this, and then a couple weeks later you're like I love this.
Yeah,
for
sure.
That for them it's like write whatever you want to write, because I'm
Definitely.
gonna give it a
I'm
listen.
gonna get it.
Yeah, you have earned my trust. Do your thing. I will listen. Like Jack White's the same way. It's
For
like
sure.
all his records that he's doing right now are very different than his previous Jack White solo stuff, and definitely totally different from White Stripes. And it's like, do your thing, man. It's like,
For sure.
If I don't love this one, I'll probably love the next one. Like,
and I'm a huge Raconteurs fan.
Yeah.
And so, anytime he announces something, I'm just like, dude, why don't you just fucking call the Raconteurs guys up? And then I get the album that he puts out, and I'm like, all right, I'm glad you put this out. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to be without this, even though I want you to do another album with Brandon Benson.
Dude, that's I feel like both. I mean, obviously the Raconteurs, people love that band, but them and the Dead Weather,
Dude, the fucking Dead Weather.
great side projects that I feel like, even though they're popular, it's like, could these be more popular, please? Like, could
Right.
like it's so.
Everyone in the world should know who Alison Mossart is.
Yeah,
She's
it's
a
so easy
bad
for me
chick.
to get nerdy about that, because it's like both bands have just the coolest identities to them,
Yeah.
and none of it's fake, right? These are the real identities of these people, and it's so easy to look at it and be like, oh, it's Jack White, like he put a little gimmicky band together, and it's like, no, that's that band's personality.
For
he
sure.
just happens to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I love the Dead Weather though. Like,
And I thought that was super ballsy of him too. He's this super famous singer guitar player, and then goes and plays drums for a band that ends up being massive.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, he was just on Rick Rubin's podcast.
I was listening to it earlier.
Oh, you were? Okay.
Yep.
Did you get to the part where they were talking about pressing plants? And,
No, I didn't get all the way through it.
Well, I won't ruin anything about it, but he's got his pressing plant with Third Man Records, and Rick
Right.
Rubin's just asking him questions about the economics of doing all that, and it's like right now, if you want to print vinyl, there's like an 8 or 9 month hold on when your record's going to come out, and he was talking about even as Jack White, like he's got to get in line in his own pressing plant because there's so much work. It's like,
I don't know if this is. I heard this rumor from a number of different people, and to where I'm going to choose to think it's right, and it just sounds right. But there was a hold on vinyl for like months and months and months, and only 2 records were getting pressed. It was Adele's record, her most recent one, and the reissue of Tusk. Again, back to Fleetwood Mac.
I believe it, because he was talking about.
Because vinyl's cool again. I mean,
I wish I could remember the numbers, but
it's
like,
been cool for a while. But.
one machine can put out this many vinyls a day, right? Working around the clock, and how in vinyls, most popular times, like they could print like 25,000 albums in a night or something, because there were so many machines that they could do it on, right?
Right.
And now we hardly have any. Old ones were basically scrapped a long time ago, and they're just now building like newer presses, and there's vintage presses. But listening to all that, it makes me want to be like, should I like mortgage the house and buy some vinyl presses? Like,
No, dude.
it's like if there's a 9 month hold on vinyl, like there's a need. I could get like 3 presses and do limited runs.
I so get that, because I had the same thought, but it was with screen printing, because we had with all the supply chain issues, we didn't get our shirts in on time for one of the runs, and I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just going to go get a loan.
Yeah.
I'm going to, in our little apartment, I'm going to scrap some. I guess we're not having a living room anymore. Sorry, babe. And
she's an artist. She'll get it.
She'll so get it. She's into clothes. This is making clothes.
These are clothes.
Yeah. Yeah. So I totally get the urge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, there's something like about that DIY thing that's always just attractive, I think.
I think it would be cool, like, even if it, I don't know. I think it would just be cool to fulfill a need of like, there's somebody who wants to print vinyl and doesn't want to wait 8 months. And I might be able to knock the wait down to 3 months now just by being, and like the other manufacturers would be like, cool, man, more the merrier, because we can't keep up right now. And it's like,
you're not putting a dent in their bottom line.
Like, I'm not going to compete with Third Man Records. Like they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But he talked a lot in that podcast about, I think he said, because Rick Rubin was asking him like, oh, you got to take.
No, I just saw the time.
Oh.
So I forgot. So
We can wrap it up. Don't worry. 'Cause I'll chatter on forever.
I don't gotta like run out right this second.
Yeah,
but,
yeah. But basically, he was talking about like, why don't you open up another one if you got all this demand? And he's like, I still haven't made any money off the current one.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck. Okay, maybe I won't buy presses then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
It's like if Jack White's not making money off of it, I don't know.
I believe in Jack White's ability to turn that one into a profit.
He'll be fine.
Yeah,
He'll be fine. Jack's gonna do all the stuff he wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. Being Jack White might be like the coolest superpower, honestly.
Yeah. I just saw that clip of him. I forgot he was in it in the Walk Hard movie where he plays Elvis.
Oh, that's right.
It's fucking great. If you haven't seen it, just look it up. It's really
No,
great.
it's amazing.
Anyway, yeah, the time, man. We've been doing this for a while now. Thank you so much for, first of all, I think did you give me an advance copy of the album a while back, or I think you sent me something like that.
I think I sent you a SoundCloud with like
That's
half
what it
the
was,
record
yeah.
on it or something.
I appreciate that
for
very,
sure,
very
man.
much, and definitely appreciate you coming on here. The new record's awesome. I mean, well, I say new record. It's the record. It's that's the
Only one right now.
Only one right now.
Yeah.
Excited to hear what the new stuff is. Definitely, everybody go watch whatever show you book up soon. What's the best place for people to find all your stuff? Do you guys do mostly Instagram, the website?
Instagram or the website.
Okay.
All the stuff's on Spotify, Apple
Yeah.
Music.
Is it just thedirtyshirts.com?
The Dirty Shirts US.
US. Okay.
Yep.
Wait, where's the other one at?
It's
We will fucking call them up.
somewhere- It's like
This
an
will
old
not
man
stand.
country cover band,
Oh, really?
and it's like they're like, we're the Dirty Shirts, and
Oh
but
my God! Could y'all
and
play a show together
they
someday?
don't have they have not answered one email or Instagram message or anything. I don't.
Okay.
They might be like your uncle that doesn't know how to open his email. Like, how do I get my messages off the computer?
Either that, or they're just
But-
cutting their album with Rick Rubin right now.
Yeah, bunch of dicks.
Well,
But
again,
jumping in line.
Thank you so much, man. Welcome
thanks
back
for
on the
having me,
show
man.
anytime.
Thank you.
Please send me music anytime you're
you
making
want,
it.
man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
The I'm a Fan of podcast, music, comedy, and more.